Please refrain from eating the patient.
Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden, quite a mouthful, is itself somewhat of a mutant. A combination of grid and turn-based strategy titles with a layer and focus on freeform exploration, preparation, positioning and stealth. Although initially the game might seem daunting, it's really not very difficult once you figure it all out. It's a continuous, cohesive puzzle of positioning and prioritizing enemies, and once you've learned the basics, you can definitely deal with anything it throws at you. It took me approximately 15 hours to beat, on the highest difficulty. In Road to Eden, you find yourself piloting a squad of mutants, stalkers as they are called. Set in a post-apocalyptic Sweden, humanity has perished under the so-called Red Plague, and whatever sanity remains is holding up in a tower structure called the Ark. At first, your squad is limited to the porcine Borman, the main narrator of the game, and the duck scoundrel, appropriately called Ducks. But as you advance your journey through the zone, you'll have the opportunity to expand your squad to a group of 5 different mutants. Although the plot is relatively simplistic and predictable, Mutant Year Zero creates a compelling setting for you to explore. With a serviceable story, this post-apocalyptic Sweden is mainly interesting due to the way the characters reflect and remember the past. Where the present is sadly less fleshed out, such as the fact that you're a mutant or life on the Ark, the continuous character quips and occasional interaction about the environments you find yourself in and how they believe history to have worked out is always amusing. Virtually every zone you encounter holds some sort of ancient legend or danger, ranging from actual threats to Dux's belief of what a boombox may or may not do. Overall, the character writing is solid, and combined with the great music and bleak, gloomy environmental design, you'll have a fun, atmospheric setting for you to discover and explore. And exploration is absolutely key. Like I mentioned earlier, it isn't a very difficult game, but if you run into every combat encounter without any care, you'll learn the hard way that enemies can take you down in but a few shots. No, the first thing you should do when you enter a new zone is scout out the area, figure out where enemies are placed and how they patrol. The game makes a clear distinction between silent and loud weaponry, and with a little patience you can eliminate a lot of threats quietly before you start making some noise. The Alpha Strike, or priority mentality, is then massive in Mutant Year Zero. An enemy type such as the Shamans that spawn more enemies requires swift elimination in the first round, or you might find yourself surrounded in no time. As the game features relatively little random number generation, for instance damage numbers are static regardless of range, and critical bonuses start stacking very quickly, it is then generally easy enough to take down the biggest threats within the first turn. This playstyle is further emphasized by how skills recharge, namely on a specific kill count basis. Skills then come in the form of major, minor, and passive mutations, some of which are unique to the specific mutant. Hog Rush, for instance, is only available to Borman, and others such as Moth Wings or the passive critical bonuses are present on a few different characters. Each character can have one of each type, but virtually every element of Mutant Year Zero can be swapped in and out on the fly. If you need a specific weapon, ability, or even entire character for a specific encounter, you can easily swap these in and out right there and then, meaning there's not much commitment involved in how you build your characters. Weapons then come in the form of roughly 3 categories: your shotguns, your snipers, and a few mid-range items, but generally all of these are straight upgrades that you find as you go along with some simple damage increases. And this is where we run into probably the biggest downside of Mutant Year Zero. For a hybrid game, I truly wish it had evolved its RPG elements more than it did. Although I like the power game element of being able to swap out abilities and weapons at will, resulting in some clever puzzle-like solutions to encounters, and enjoy the fact that on the harder difficulty, neither skills nor health recharge automatically, there isn't much in the way of customization and specialization, which makes individual characters and items stand out less and makes replaying the same game less appealing. Similarly, the Ark is not a base which you can personalize. It's a simple hub for you to return to make some simple weapon upgrades or stock up on medical supplies. Throughout the game, I also found that the shop never really had anything interesting for me to buy. Grenades, which I already had in abundance, medical supplies, which were useful, and the same weaponry that I had already found many levels before they became available. Pulling it back to the combat in Road to Eden, again, stakes are high, and the basic learning curve of figuring out gun ranges for your mutants, and perhaps more importantly, your enemies, or learning when loud guns will attract more visitors, is an enjoyable experience, and the core of the combat is rock solid. Being able to jump over walls with certain mutations, blast enemies off rooftops, and juggling skill recharges in the right order is all enjoyable. Most of the time, you'll clean things up nicely. Cover bonuses are massive, keeping your stalkers safe. RNG chances stack up quickly, meaning worst case scenario, you're generally looking at a 75% shot. But when that 75% shot does miss, things can certainly get a bit more chaotic, and this is why you'll start relying on your limited healing supplies or grenades. However, with the way Mutant Year Zero is balanced, those moments are relatively few and far between. And once more, most encounters are focused on the initial first turn puzzle, especially if you want to take down a few enemies silently, which the game highly promotes. Unfortunately, as you start nearing the endgame, this balance gets quite a bit worse. Although fighting large groups of humanoid enemies remains largely fine, it's the robotic ones where combat becomes far too irrelevant, as you'll be showered in EMP grenades from start to finish, and not even the mightiest of initially impeding mechs seem to have any defenses against being stunlocked. It is a combination of this poor balance and lack of customization that takes away the most from what is otherwise an enjoyable turn-based strategy experience in a unique setting. Although ultimately Mutant Year Zero does nothing groundbreaking and has bumps to kink out, I had a ducking good time with Road to Eden, and it's a welcome addition for turn-based strategy fans. Thank you for watching, my name has been Haas, and I'll see you in the next video or livestream.
Yikes. This is like a war machine, yeah? Thick armor and big teeth.